Okay, this one's actually just a response to a question I had in my feed on one of my recent videos on X, and you guys can follow me at TruthWarriorDad if you're interested in whatever the hell I think about things. I have some opinions on there. But the question was to do with some videos I've been doing about trying to explain to the average Canadian that our political class has sold us out as a country, and that we've had infiltration happening in Canada at many levels in our various institutions, be it the education system, the media, the government, the intelligence services, the RCMP, inside out, forward and backwards. Our nation, in my opinion, and the opinion of others who've been paying attention to this, has essentially been captured by forces that are not as friendly to us as they advertise on the surface. And so the question was, because I was making a statement that what Canadians need to realize is that the destruction we're seeing to this country is intentional. And that's a hard pill for people to swallow. And it takes a little bit of reading past the mainstream news headlines and what you've been educated in your universities as to what Canada is, what its history really is, and what's been unfolding in recent history that has produced this present set of circumstances that we all find ourselves in. And you're just, I don't have to get into all the nitty gritty necessarily in this video. I've done that in other work. You can go and check out my past streams to, realize that Canada is just like a little tiny tadpole in a big pond where a lot of other things are going on. And we tend to think locally and not geopolitically, which is a mistake. And that's why a lot of people can't see the forest from the trees on this. And so it's not that they're coming in to physically burn the place down, although, man, as I'm saying that, I'm wondering about all those wildfires. There's all the arsonists and all that, and so you never know. Maybe physically there was something going on there, or just trying to create a need for a response that ends up working out for this agenda. But either way, the destruction we see economically, politically, to drastically change the cultural landscape, the financial landscape, every aspect of our life to fit this particular model. All you got to do is find out, where did the model come from? And then compare and contrast what's going on in Canada with other places in, say, Europe, right? And realize, okay, Sweden, Denmark, UK, France, they're all just being destroyed under the pressure of many different things happening at once that were invited in, promoted, and installed by their political elites. Okay? So you as we're putting all these pieces together and your mind is spinning on this, you're going to have to conclude one of two things. Either we're dealing with levels of stupidity and incompetence that defy human imagination. That is one plausible theory to explain the grave situation that we find ourselves in Canada and in basically all the other Western nations as well. The US narrowly missed, and they're still recovering and reeling, and it's still chaos over there as well. So when I say purposeful destruction, I'm speaking mainly economically. This is mainly how they were going to do it, but there's also an attack on our culture. Culture is different than race. Okay, let's just point that out. Culture is something that's a product of creation by the people of a nation or a group of people. You create a culture. Like, I've created a particular culture in my martial arts business. There's a culture that's there, okay? There's a culture that is Canada. There's a culture that is Sweden. There's a culture that is the Britain, London, England. There's a culture that is the United States. Even within the United States, there's different cultures in each state. Just like in Canada, there's sort of different cultures in the Maritimes, different cultures in Quebec, different culture in Ontario. Even in Ontario, in each city, there's like a slightly different culture change between, say, Ottawa and Toronto, right? There was always big competition between those two cities. Same country, different cultures. And that culture has been attacked. All those variations of culture, which are the expression of the diversity of humanity, in many regards, other than just your race, that is under attack. Economically, we're under attack. Legally and politically, we're under attack. And when I say we're under attack, what Canadians believed Canada to be and was raised to believe Canada to be the principles and values that shape the premise of this thing that we call Canada or Western civilization. That has a history to it. That has a philosophical tradition behind it. That has a whole host of ideas that were forged over time that produced the Magna Carta, the constitutions, the idea that you're an individual that has rights and property rights and speech rights and free association rights and all land rights, all these things. It's produced by ideas, okay? So that's what's under attack. Because, and it's not just coming attack by Canadian politicians doing this to Canadians. I think this is where we get it wrong. The current Canadian political class, there's very little thing Canadian about them, in my opinion. They're operating for international global high tables and big mega central banks. They're not swearing oaths of allegiance in Parliament to Canadian citizens and their daily needs and requirements for survival and thriving and the preservation of their culture. They're not answering to the Canadian people. They don't have an allegiance to us. Just go watch Mark Carney's swearing in ceremony. Just go watch that and tell me where I'm wrong. Did he swear an oath of allegiance to the people and citizens of Canada that pay taxes and make this whole thing work? Or did he swear an oath of allegiance to, as he said, the King of Canada? What was it, right? So when you see that they're swearing allegiance to royalty in Europe and England, and they're coming from WEF boards and World Bank and Chatham House and all these organizations that people know nothing at all about because they don't understand the occult history of the world and of the West and of our civilization and what's happened behind the scenes. That's something people need to catch up on. So when I come out and say something like that, of course it's going to be like, what do you mean that they're trying to destroy Canada? Why would they destroy Canada? I don't understand that. See, they're trying to destroy Western civilization. And by destroying that, they're not just trying to burn the thing to the ground. This is like they're destroying an idea, and why would you destroy anything unless you were going to destroy it and replace it with something else? That's the motivation. All this climate stuff, they're trying to bring in ideas that aren't really about the things that they're bringing in. They're about a bigger idea of having a total cultural shift across the entire West and hence the entire world. These are globalists. These are people who want one ring of power to rule Earth. One ring of power, not bunches of rings of power working together and doing trade. That's all rhetoric. I know this because I've read the manuscripts and the inside information coming out of these high table, white paper groups, round table think tanks. I've been reading it for years. And what they are looking for is a one world government system. And they need to have, if you're going to just think logically, if you're going to erase national borders, erase national governments and national identity and the diversity of the cultures of humanity, if you're going to erase that, you need to replace it with something. And what do you want to replace it with? A singular power in the world, a singular culture that they might allow a little bit of diversity, but they're going to tell you what's hateful and what's a good culture and what's a bad culture. And let me tell you, anything that gets in the way of the agenda for this global ring of power will be deemed illegal and rogue state and terrorist and all the things we know that they do. Okay. So they are trying to destroy Canada because it's just another branch on the tree of the West that they're trying to destroy culturally, economically, and in many other ways in order to burn it out metaphorically, maybe even physically. My God, think of all the churches that have been burned. Think about all the friggin' grasslands that have been burned, the farmlands that have been burned. I don't know. But we'll keep it metaphoric. They're trying to destroy it in order to replace it, the ideals, the laws, the customs, the traditions, the premise, the philosophies, the entire thing with something new. And that something new is hidden. It's known, but it's still hidden. Because if they told you the fine print on the new idea and the new order of the world and the New Deal and the new this and the new that, Humanity 2.0, transhumanism, if they gave you the fine print on where they're taking us, nobody would go with it. So what do? They got to sell you on it. They're not going to walk up and go, guys, we're just totally going to seize all your land, resources, and property, and we're going to dominate the world with one government that you're going to have to pay taxes to somewhere in Switzerland or something, or maybe in Saudi Arabia or something like that. You have to pay some global jizya tax or some global WE, I don't know, whatever they're going to do. They're never going to come out and say it like that. It's always going to be about, oh, we got to stop the threat of this and the threat of that and the hatred and the bad feelings over here, and we got to save the little guy over here, and we got to help and it's always done clothed in virtue. It's the Fabian technique. Go study Fabian socialism. What's their agenda? Did you know that it's been written about? Do you know the symbol of that organization is literally a wolf in sheep's clothing? I mean, of all the things that you could symbolize your organization with, and then you read the agenda that they are trying to push into politics, and they started in Britain. They got their way into the parliamentary system in Canada about maybe 20, 30 years ago, and it's been business as usual ever since. So when someone like me, who's been studying this intensely for about 20 years, starts seeing we go from a Trudeau to a Carney, that's not an upgrade for us. That's an upgrade for them. And then it's business as usual. Clothed in, look, we're Canada strong, and it's elbows up, and we're coming together, and we're fighting big bad orange man in the US, and we're doing all that. But it's all bullshit. Because the agenda at the top, well above the rank of your local politicians, okay? They're just agents. They're like little minions from that cartoon show, Minions, right? They're like that, like, they're just doing the orders of Sauron, okay? Sauron and the High Table has their own designs for the world. Canada's just a little tiny piece of that. And they want it because of the resources here and the wealth that's here. And do you think they would never be stupid enough to just think that the born and bred Canadian people here were just going to hand it all back to them? They had to do it over a process of, chiseling, right? And deception and weaponizing our virtue and propaganda and victim consciousness. And, oh, look at the little minority group here that you evil people are holding and oppressing. You give us more tax money and we'll fix it. We've been giving tax money to how much billions of dollars of all these, local issues and government programs and foreign aid and all this. And then look, we're broke. We can't even, average Canadian who was born and raised, spent their entire life here and generationally paying taxes into the system. They're the ones that can't get jobs. They're the ones that can't afford. Nobody can afford food. We're all in the same boat here. They're imploding it on purpose because they're going to replace it with something else. And they just need to make you desperate enough to beg them for it. And that's what's happening. That's where we're at. People are begging for the enslavement coming their way. They have no idea the level of evil and nefarious activity that is going behind the scenes on this because they haven't studied it. They haven't thought about it. And the minute you start getting people to start looking into the origins of evil and the origins of criminality and what's going on behind the lodge doors in their local parliaments and government houses and all of this, nobody wants to pay attention to that. It's not exciting. Let's get Taylor Swift on as fast as possible. Let's get the sporting games on as fast as possible to distract us from looking down the barrel of the gun that we're all looking at right now. So all I'm going to say here is that there is a way to turn this around, but it's going to be a historic, unprecedented, massive, sudden zeitgeist shift in the consciousness of the Canadian people, of people living in any Western country. I don't care what your race is. If you're here to assimilate to the values of the West, the premise of the West, which is freedom, which is private property rights, which is you are free not just from government totalitarianism, you're also free from the totalitarianism of the mob, of the crowd, of the woke consciousness. They can't come in and start dictating your life for you. That's the idea of the West, is that we've seen this before. How do we stop totalitarian rulers, but also how do we stop and build a system that prevents the torch-bearing mob from coming to burn you out and take your property and tell you you don't own your property? How do we deal with that? That was the idea of the West. With all the corruption and all the shit that everybody's going to bring up and never point at the same kind of evils coming from their own camps, of course. Just put that aside. You're all on the chopping block. All y'all are going to get clipped with this agenda. So That's what I mean when I'm talking about how there is a purposeful destruction of this country. I'm at the point where I can't see an innocent explanation, and I can no longer operate under the premise that these people in government and in the media and in all these institutions and these university professors and the whole army that has infested this country with these ideas that are antithetical to the premise of Canada and the premise of the West. I can't any longer sit back and go, oh, they're just ignorant. Oh, they're just being really incompetent idiots. Like, I can't live there anymore. This is too calculated. It's rolling out across many countries. Australia is dealing with the same shit right now. Okay? Europe dealing with the same shit. The US dealing with the same shit. It's just different flavors of the same shit. The prize is to destroy the West, because the West is the only thing, and not just the West physically, the West ideologically. Can we understand this? It's ideas that produce things in the real world. Go to the premise. The ideas need to be removed if you're going to have a one world government and a new world order ruled by unelected bureaucrats that don't give a damn about you and your kids and want to tax you into the stratosphere and enslave you in ways that you're going to love. As according to Aldous Huxley, he predicted it. We're going to be drugged up, dumbed down, and we're going to be begging for more slavery. Look at where we are. And I think Aldous Huxley and many others that have predicted this have been proven right. And therefore, my current theory and hypothesis is this destruction to Canada and to the West is not done by a bunch of incompetent nincompoops. The incompetent nincompoops serve the real Saurons and the real mob bosses who are doing this on purpose. So, and I rest my case on our present plight.